Hi, hello, welcome or welcome back. This video is going to be the library tag, and it's all questions pertaining to my library use and if I use my library, if I don't use my library, what functions I use it for, and just a whole deep dive into that. So there's two sets of questions. One if you do go to the library, and then there's another set if you don't go to the library. So whoever feels like doing this tag, you kind of have either option to do, but obviously I do go to the library, so I'll be answering those questions. How often do you go to the library? Like physically going to the library, probably once every week or once every week and a half. It really just depends on how often my holds are available and books that I have to return or books that I finished that I want to return so other readers can start reading them too. I should utilize my library a little bit more for like community events or even book sales that they have going on. But I very much am a person where if I'm leaving the house, it's for a necessity or a purpose. So I'm a homebody, so my whole primary objective is eventually just to get back home. Do you belong to more than one library system? No, I only belong to one. If I were to sign up for other libraries, I would have limited access to the full range of the library. So I was looking at this other one and they were like, oh, if you don't live within the city, you can get a library card, but you wouldn't have access to our ebooks or our digital library. And I'm assuming ebooks encompasses that digital library, but I haven't done too much in-depth looking into it because the library that I do use is fantastic. I feel like if I had access to other library systems, I won't lie, I'd probably be a little bit overwhelmed just with like how much I have available to me, you know, the sheer amount. What percentage of books you read come from the library? You know, for a very long time, it was 100%. I was steadfast at making sure whatever books I read came from my library, and if I really enjoyed them, I would buy them. However, I wanted to kind of try something new this year and start a couple of bookish subscriptions. So I have Everand subscription for audiobooks and then Aardvark for physical books. And I started those subscriptions thinking like I'll kind of see how it goes, because typically with audiobooks, audiobook loans for my library, if other people are waiting for them and it's like I think I have the audiobook for like 21 days or something like that. And sometimes I need a little bit more time to get through an audiobook. It just depends on the kind of audiobook and what's going on in my life at the time. And so far I've been really liking my Everand subscription for audiobooks. It has an excellent selection. So I can't really complain. I haven't been using my library so much for audiobooks anymore because of that reason. And I find it really like worth it. It's 27 bucks. And I have an entire selection of audiobooks, and my thinking is, and audiobooks are expensive these days. Like I was looking on Kobo and like Amazon, and like some audiobooks are like 30 bucks, $35, which is insane. That's crazy. And especially since audiobooks can be really hit or miss depending on the narrator, and it's very subjective, obviously, if you like audiobooks or not, just like reading in general is. But I can't bring myself to spend like at least $30 on an audiobook that I'm not sure I'm going to really enjoy. To really fully enjoy an audiobook, I think you have to like the narration, and then you have to like the story that's being presented to you as well. And then the way that story, like the way the narrator is speaking and delivering the story to the listener, you have to like all of those things. But for Aardvark book subscriptions, my thinking really is I'm going to give it about 6 months, 5-6 months, and see how my enjoyment level of the books that I'm getting from Aardvark. And if I'm consistently not really enjoying them, then I'll probably cancel the subscription, because I don't like the feeling of spending money on books and not enjoying it. It feels weird. Obviously, I like to splurge and buy books every once in a while. Like I haven't read A Little Life, and there's a couple of other books on my shelves that I haven't read yet, but I feel confident I'm either going to need a lot of time to get through them, A Little Life, or I just feel very confident that I'm going to just like them, like a Lily King book that I have on my shelf that I haven't read yet. But I would probably say 90% of the books, maybe 85% of the books that I read or listen to are from my library. Whoops. The next question is, do you listen to audiobooks or get ebooks from the library? Or are you hooked on Audible or Amazon or something else? I literally just answered. I haven't like thoroughly reviewed the questions for this, or like prepped answers per se. So my bad, I'm sorry. I answered that a little bit in the last question there. Did you go to story time at the library as a kid? I don't think I did. If I have a kid, I think I would utilize the library a ton and bring them to story time at the library, and obviously I'm not going to go to story time now as a fully grown adult. Have you ever borrowed a movie or video game from your library? I think I've borrowed movies, but I don't think I've ever borrowed video games. I wasn't too big into gaming, and I'm still not too big into gaming, and neither is my partner. And, you know, now currently with like Crave and Netflix and all these other, you know, streaming services that we have available to us, I don't tend to rent movies from my library, and we don't even have anything to play said movie on. Have you ever gotten fined for returning books late? If so, how do you feel about that? Yes, I have been fined before. I really push the limits. No, I'm just kidding. I have been fined before, unfortunately. I'm ashamed to say that. I'm sure it's like a whole process for my local library to process those fines and then order a whole new book because I didn't return it in time. And the funny thing is that like, I think life was just being life at the time, and I was getting the email notification saying like, hey, you need to return this book within the next 7 days, otherwise we're fining you for them, and please go to our website to see the fine details and whatnot. And for some reason, I don't know why, for some reason I just didn't get around to returning it, and they fined me, I think it was like 20 bucks a book or something along those lines. And the reason I say it's funny is because I literally went to my library and returned those books after they fined me for them. I obviously paid the fine, I'm not going to argue about it, but yeah, so, you know, how do I feel about it? I don't know. I feel like my library gives me plenty of time to read a book and plenty of time thereafter to return it, and they give lots of email notifications to me to let me know like, hey, you're coming up on your time, or just so you know, you have 7 days to return this book, otherwise we're fining you. So I think all the notices and warnings that they do provide, like, I don't really have a right to feel a certain kind of way about it, because it's like, I have all the time in the world to return a book. Do you attend special events, groups, or book sales at the library? Yeah. Maybe I should have planned out my answers before I did this video, but like I mentioned before, I unfortunately don't use my library as much as I should for those functions. Like, I do get notified when they have some pretty cool things going on. I do get notified when they have book sales at certain locations, and so I should utilize that a little bit more. Have you ever given or taken a book from a little free library, a book box, or a book swap? I have not. My partner and I, we love to go on walks quite a bit, and so sometimes we'll be walking around certain parts of our city and we'll see a little free library, and I'm like, oh, so cool, and like I'll go and check it out and see what's in the little free library and whatnot. But I would like to do that sometime. I think it would be fun, maybe like a fun date day for my boyfriend and I, if we just like drove around our city, got like little iced coffees or like ice creams, and then just went and took a look at some little free libraries, because I do have some books that on my shelf that I bought before reading them and didn't necessarily like love them, because all the books I typically have on my shelf I have read and do plan to reread at some point in the future, or want to reread or lend out to people. So unfortunately, books like Emily Henry, I have yet to read an Emily Henry where I'm like, oh my god, this was amazing. I do have 2 of her books where I'm like, you know what, someone else will probably enjoy those so much more than me and will appreciate having those on their shelves, and have the ability to reread them in the future. So basically all that to say, I should go visit some little free libraries and put some books in there and maybe do a bit of a book swap of some kind. I think that would be fun. Does your librarian know your name? No, they don't. There's multiple libraries located, like my city's library, there's so many locations around the city, and I've been to a variety of locations, And I find, though, the one that I go to consistently that's closest to my home, I do see the regular faces when I go in there, but really, like, I'm in and out really quick. Rarely do I stop to peruse what is in the library and whatnot. Shocking, I know. But yeah, normally I have holds there and I'm going to pick them up, and then it's oftentimes right after work, so I'm just like tired, hungry, want to go home, and just trying to pop in there before the library closes. The last prompt is to tag people, and I'm going to tag a handful of people that I'm subscribed to who I know go to their local libraries, whether they've been there in one of their vlogs or they talk about going to their libraries in some capacity for some reason. If you're watching and you go to your library, feel free to go ahead and do this tag. I think this was fun to talk about. But Monzi at Mons, Michaela over at Michaela Reads, Sui at Sui's Book Banter, and Laura at Book Lover Laura. So that is all the questions to the library book tag. Thank you very much for watching, and watching to the end if you have. If you use your library for something different, like if your library has a cool kind of event that they typically put on, or you use your library for a reason that isn't typical, like checking out books or going to book sales, definitely let me know. Comment below. But I hope you're enjoying what you're reading, and I will see you in the next video.